Hey, it's Crypto Bobby, and today I want to discuss the tools and the exchanges that I use to buy, to invest, to trade, to store cryptocurrency. And this is a video really specifically for people that are very new to cryptocurrency so that you can get an understanding about how the tools and the exchanges and the websites that I use really. Now, if you have been around crypto for a while, this video might be a little bit more basic than you'd be into if you know how to utilize something like EtherDelta. You probably can skip this video. But outside of that, I get a ton of questions on Twitter, via email, and the YouTube comments about what exchanges I use, what wallets I use, things like that. So I wanted to just make this video to talk to the people that are new to the cryptocurrency world, or relatively new to the cryptocurrency world, that aren't really super familiar with how and where to invest, or to how to really initially buy cryptocurrency, how to buy some of those altcoins, and how and where to to go about doing that. So if you are new to the channel, I'm actually doing a YouTube live crypto happy hour tonight as well. It is Halloween. It's October 31st. So if you're watching this afterwards, tough luck. But tonight, October 31st, I am doing a YouTube live crypto happy hour at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to join for that, hit the subscribe button. If you are watching this today, or if you're watching this into the future, hit that subscribe button, hit the notify button, so that when I do the lives, you get those notifications as well. But let's hop into it. So the first thing I want to say in regards to how and kind of my overall just process is, everybody always asks, what exchanges do you use? What wallets do you use? The one thing I'll start off with a caveat here is that regardless of the exchange, it's always best practice to not keep your crypto on an exchange, especially a centralized exchange, but even decentralized exchanges as well, in case there ever are any types of technical or smart contract issues. I would recommend keeping your crypto on a hard wallet, and that's the kind of the overall thought process that I have, is that I really have two hard wallets. I have two ledgers. They literally look like this, two Ledger Nano S's. They look like this. I have one that I keep stored far away, and the other one keep for quick access when I need to trade. But I don't keep my crypto on an exchange long term, because I don't want to, in case anything, for whatever reason, if anything ever happens to an exchange, if you don't know, check out Gdax and see what happened there. Check out Cryptsy. Pretty terrible things that happen to a lot of people with Gdax and Cryptsy. So if you don't know what happened there, just Google it. But I don't keep my crypto on an exchange long term. I keep my crypto on a hardware wallet like a Ledger, and then I move it to the exchange right before I have to, right before I want to make a trade. And that way my crypto is on an exchange for the least amount of time possible, thereby reducing my risk of anything happening on an exchange. So the first thing I'll say too, especially for the newbies, what's my process flow outside of, if I don't even have cryptocurrency, what do I want to do? Typically where I'm in the US, so also take that with take everything with a grain of salt. This could be different for your location. If you live in Europe, if you live in Asia, wherever you might be. I'm in the US, and I use CoinBase/Gdax for Coinbase/Gdax to acquire Bitcoin and Ethereum. For me, that's the easiest way. I have the highest limits on Coinbase, and I've had a good user experience with Coinbase. I know some people have had varying experiences. Everything is your personal preference. So, if you like Gemini, if there's other places that you prefer to get US dollars or fiat or whatever your local currency is to Bitcoin or into Ethereum, then that's all on you. The one nice thing that I like, at least, and one of the only place that I would somewhat feel comfortable keeping any type of crypto on would be Coinbase and Gdax, because you can see that they are actually insured. So they do have an insurance policy. The one thing there too, though, is that that's covered in case Coinbase has any physical security or cybersecurity or employee theft issues. But if you do anything that results in the compromise of your own individual account, aka your password gets hacked, you get hacked, and you have your money on Coinbase, tough luck. So, and that's probably the much more common, or that's probably the much more likely scenario. Hence why it's still, even if Coinbase is insured for their own, if somebody breaks into their own system, you're probably much more likely to personally get hacked than Coinbase is. So you really want to reduce your exposure there as well. Now, outside of just Coinbase too, one of the things for me is I actually use Gdax, which is kind of Coinbase's more institutional version of a trading system as well. The fees are much lower, so Gdax is actually where I'll put money from my bank account into Gdax directly, and that is where I will acquire Bitcoin and Ethereum. From there, I use a number of different exchanges. So, and I'll talk about each different exchange, kind of why I use them and why, and really why in the process of which I use them. So, outside of once I take my US dollars, for me, once I take my US dollars and I'll put them into Gdax, I'll typically do that ahead of time as well, because there's usually a 4 or 5 day window. You can buy things. There's actually instant bank transfers on Coinbase now, but the fees are still higher. So rather than eating a 1.5% fee, I'd rather pay a 0% fee and wait 4 days on Gdax in a lot of cases. So that's what I'll go ahead and do. Once I have that Bitcoin or Ethereum, if it's Bitcoin or Ethereum that I'm holding on for the long term, I'll store it on the Ledger. I'll get it off Gdax. I'll send it over to the Ledger, to the specific accounts that I have, especially the ones in way cold storage. Then I'll use that. Or alternatively, if it's something where I'm trying to buy a smaller cryptocurrency, a quote-unquote altcoin, something of that nature, I'll utilize either Bittrex, I'll use BuyNance, Liqui, or EtherDelta. And I'll give you an example of when and where I use each of these, and a lot of it comes down to availability and accessibility for specific cryptocurrencies. So for me, the most trusted of these exchanges right now, and this is a centralized exchange, so there are Bittrex has been good so far for me. I've had no issues with deposits, with withdrawals, with whatever, but again, there's been incredible growth in the cryptocurrency world, so some people have had issues, some people haven't, but Bittrex has been a good place for me to trade both Bitcoin and Ethereum for altcoins for the time being. Now, Bittrex is one of the larger exchanges that I'll utilize, and it's been, I would say, successful for me in a lot of respects. And the nice thing about it is it has both Bitcoin trade pairings and Ethereum trade pairings, and it has a good number. You can see down here. You can see here that there are over 5 pages of both Bitcoin and Ethereum pairings, as well as dollar tether. I really don't touch dollar tether that often, but if you want to trade into dollar tether USDT, you can do that as well. Now, if you want to go and see the size and a lot of times the stability, the volume of an exchange, you can head over to CoinMarketCap. I'll link to this below as well, but the exchanges, the volume on a 24-hour perspective. So as I scroll down here, Bittrex is actually the 4th largest exchange right now in terms of volume. Has over $295 million worth of daily volume in the past 24 hours. And then the other exchange that I utilize is BuyNance, that has about $88 million of volume, and then we have Gdax with about $88 million as well. So pretty close there. And I try to use if I'm going to use a centralized exchange, I'll try to use one with more volume. Obviously, a lot of reason for that. It's quicker buy, sell orders. Typically, the prices are a little bit truer to market as well. So I'll try to use Bittrex where possible. That is my preferred exchange for. Bittrex is my preferred exchange in a lot of respects for some of, basically the altcoins. If I want to buy, let's say if I want to buy NEO or OMG, that NEO and OMG, I first bought both of them on Bittrex. And after the ICO for Status, I sold Status on Bittrex. So, and I've sold Civic on Bittrex as well. So that's kind of my preferred place for a lot of these quote unquote altcoins or some of the recent ICOs. The one thing about Bittrex, though, is as of late, they have been a little bit slower to add new cryptocurrencies to market. So Bittrex isn't going to have every cryptocurrency. There's a ton of ICOs that are happening on a daily basis. And with that being said, with those ICOs happening, ton of ICOs going down, and Bittrex isn't always adding all of them to the party in a super fast manner. So how do you deal with that? Well, that's where BuyNance, Liqui, and EtherDelta come into the picture. So if you are buying a recent ICO, typically the first place, if it's an ERC-20 token, the first place that an ICO is going to be listed is EtherDelta. And EtherDelta is a decentralized exchange. It's for newbies, it is definitely going to be more confusing than utilizing Bittrex or BuyNance or Liqui. No doubt about it, and absolutely more difficult than utilizing something as simple as CoinBase. But basically, the second an ICO happens, after those tokens become tradable and transferable, they're going to be on EtherDelta if they are ERC-20 tokens, because EtherDelta is obviously Ether built, utilizing the Ethereum blockchain. So Grid, we're seeing right here, Grid to ETH. The Grid Plus ICO was actually just listed, just went down. It has been listed 12 hours ago. So basically, the second the Grid ICO went down, they listed that, and that's been tradable on EtherDelta. Now, because EtherDelta it's a little bit different, you can see here that just the user interface is maybe a little bit more difficult for you, or might be a little bit. There's the concept of utilizing smart contracts, depositing into smart contracts, and then the order book is a little bit difficult as well, or for more, I would say, novice investors here. Both Binance and Liqui are typically the fastest centralized exchanges, meaning that there's somebody that actually owns these exchanges. There's companies kind of behind them that are listing coins pretty quickly. So if we pop over to Binance here, you can see the trade pairings for something like AirSwap, which was listed quite quickly on Binance very soon after the ICO. Chainlink, a lot of these other cryptocurrencies that are a little bit smaller and recently ICO'd, they have been listed quickly on Binance. I found Binance to be relatively a pretty good user experience so far. Haven't had any issues with it. And again, though, as I've said before, people are probably going to sound off in the comments. They're going to say, hey, I hate Coinbase. I deposited money and they took forever and then they declined me, or Bittrex didn't respond to my ticket and it took 3 months, or Binance screwed something up. Everybody, there's a lot of people out there that have had varying experiences. So just take everything with a grain of salt. But for the most part, I've had a good experience with Binance. And then Liqui has been another one where, again, they have been pretty quick to add new cryptocurrencies. They've been pretty quick to add new cryptocurrencies over time, be it something like, Kyber Network when it was recently added to Liqui, Salt, AirSwap token. A lot of them have been added nicely and quickly with Liqui. So again, Liqui is a smaller market. If we pop down here, I'll actually just search it here. But Liqui is a smaller exchange, so it only does about $17 million in daily volume in the past 24 hours or so. So the pairings and the volume are a little bit, I don't want to say a shady exchange by any sense, but some people have had more issues with Liqui than others, and it's not as large as a Binance or a Bittrex, and something to keep in mind there. But overall, as I'm looking at this, I just wanted to put out this video because a lot of people, like I said, ask me on a daily basis, hey, where do you buy cryptocurrency? Where do you trade for some of these altcoins? What is your overall process? And summarizing on it, my exact process is I will utilize Coinbase or Gdax, Coinbase being the simplest one, but if Gdax, typically I'll wait 4 or 5 days, I'll put a bank transfer in and I'll buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then if I'm holding that Bitcoin or Ethereum, I will send it to Ledger. If I am buying altcoins with it, I will either typically I'll send Ethereum because it has usually has some more trade pairings, but I'll send Ethereum to Bittrex, to Binance, to Liqui, or to EtherDelta. And then from there, I will buy those tokens that I want from Bittrex, Binance, Liqui, or EtherDelta, and then I will move those tokens typically back to my ledger. If I'm holding them, if they're long-term investments, then I will do that. And like I said, you always want to, the less time you keep your crypto on an exchange, the better. If you're doing a short-term trade, great. But just be safe as far as everything goes, because that's something that you want to consider, is to always be safe when it comes to investing in cryptocurrency. And you want to make sure that a lot of these exchanges, they have been, I've had good experiences with Bittrex. I've had good experiences with Binance. Doesn't mean that some something bad couldn't happen in the future with some of these exchanges somehow, if there was some malicious attack or something like that and you couldn't get your crypto off these exchanges, then you want to be safe, and so you want to reduce the risk as much as possible there. So hopefully this video was helpful for you just in terms of understanding my overall process flow from acquiring Bitcoin and Ethereum, utilizing Coinbase, moving it to some of these exchanges pretty quickly, and then trading them, moving it back to Ledger, storing that there for the long term, and then having, a kind of a long-term hold ledger and then a short-term ledger as well for just quick trades. When I need to pop it into the computer, I can do that. And outside of that, guys, like I said, if you have questions, let me know. And I will be doing a YouTube live tonight. If you're watching this on Halloween, October 31st, I will be doing a YouTube live this evening to talk about the daily price action. So if you'd like to join that, just make sure you're around 9 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S., and hit the subscribe button, hit the little notify bell if you're watching this now, so you get that. And if you're watching it in the future, I do the YouTube live crypto happy hours on multiple times on a weekly basis. So you can stick around for the next one if you're watching this at a later date. Crypto Bobby, signing out. Peace.